Welcome back to another episode of Chelsea Waves. Just like Wesley Fofana, Ryan has controversially taken a break to the Alps mid-season. So a big thank you to the bro, Will Hewitson, for stepping up in his absence as we look back on Liam Rosenior's first week in charge. And welcome Eagles Ultra Tom Anderson ahead of our upcoming fixture at Selhurst Park on Sunday. Let's jump into it.
Chelsea 2, Arsenal 3 in the first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final. A rollercoaster of a night at the bridge for Liam Rosenior's debut as Chelsea boss. From despair to salvaging a somewhat respectable result. How did you see it?
Liam Rosenior's curtain raiser at the bridge, his first big test, and he was hamstrung from the get-go. As if a crunch cup semi-final against bitter London rivals Arsenal, the form team of Europe, wasn't enough. He had to contend with the quote-unquote management of key players, Cole Palmer, Reece James, Malo Gusto, a sprinkling of Delap, Gittins feeling ill, all in the context of a suspended Moises Caicedo. This felt like a mismatch on paper, and so our fears materialised. The simplest of corners was converted from set piece FC just 7 minutes in, and it played out in slow motion, was far too easy. Of course, in retrospect, looking back, there were the usual Arsenal shenanigans at play, but this was nonetheless shaky from Sanchez and very much set the tone for a sloppy night from him, who, shy of gifting Gyökeres a tap-in to end his goal drought in the second half, was involved in repeated tragic attempts of playing out with Wes and Trev, feeding a hungry Arsenal press. Most will agree that Bobby Sanchez has been more than all right of late, but he fully reverted to early 2024-25 factory settings on Wednesday night. And I do wonder how much being tasked with playing out impacted his performance. One man who did, however, possess the poise and precision to play out of Arsenal's tenacious press, credit where credit's due, Enzo Fernandez. I actually thought it was one of his best showings in a while, deployed in that deeper role. It's just unfortunate for him that the supporting cast consisted of Mark Gui and the number 9 repeatedly, kind of inexplicably, trying to pin Gabriel, a thankless task, rather than running the channels. And poor Josh Achimpong, the promising 19-year-old centre-half, was utilised as an outlet, the spare man on the right wing. This, 3.5 years into the Blueco project, comical. So 2-0 down after half-time, there was very much kind of a deflated feeling around the bridge, but kudos for the spirited response. We saw great tenacity from Enzo, a really nice clip cross from Neto, and a fine finish from Garnacho, albeit with a sprinkling of Kep attacks, which we predicted in the build-up. There was belief at the bridge. We were building momentum, and there were a couple of key gutting blocks denying the scintillating Steve. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal, particularly in that second half in his battle with Timber, widely renowned as one of the best about. The strength and tenacity on display was phenomenal. But unfortunately, Arsenal then silenced the crowd with a really slick move. And much like the goal, the Gooners sort of proceeded to slice through us at will for a 10-15 minute spell. This, however, was unsurprising given the ever-changing combinations across our backline. I mean, we saw Josh, Trev, and Wes all endure stints at right back. Not one of those is a right back by trade, they're centre backs. I think Wes alone played left centre back, right centre back, and right back. And Paul Hatto enters the fray at left centre back before shifting to his usual left back position. This is a crunch semi-final clash, not a trial. Unacceptable. Chelsea's goal did live a charmed life, and the scoreline should have got out of hand. There was a slither of redemption from Sanchez with a stunning save to deny Marino. And thankfully, it was Chelsea who troubled the scorers next. Really great technique from Garnacho, with yet more Kep attacks, means that we have a respectable scoreline that just about keeps us in the tie. One thing for sure, however, is nothing short of a first 11 will be required at the Emirates for any chance of a spin.
People have drawn parallels between this blue code Chelsea side and 2010's Arsenal, with tidy technicians but ultimately a soft underbelly, vulnerable to being bullied. The corner goal from Ben White just 7 minutes in for the first, and for the second, not tracking runners, Neto losing Ben White for an easy cutback to Gyökeres. This showed that. It's far too easy. I did also get the sense that Arsenal played most of the game in second gear, ironically much like Mourinho's Chelsea. We are still in the tie, just about, but we'll need Reece back and at levels he showed in that league game at the Bridge. We'll also need Caicedo bang at it, but not seeing red this time around. Chelsea 2, Brentford 0. A comfortable scoreline on paper, but far from convincing for me. How do you see it, George?
Job done, just about. It's a clean sheet and 3 crucial points to leapfrog Brentford. Crucial not only in the context of the Champions League race, obviously United winning a big derby in the 12:30 beforehand, but of course in the context of the fan protests pre-game and the fact that the squad was quote unquote managed ahead of this game, very much putting all eggs in the Premier League basket. It simply had to be 3 points, and fair play it was. I thought the Bees shaded that first half. We saw profligacy from Schade and Jensen, either side of a very welcome striker's snapshot from João Pedro. More of that, please, João. Garnacho then missed an absolute sitter himself, just when you're hoping he can kick on from that brace midweek and an all-round strong showing against Arsenal. He goes and does that. Second half kicks off and it felt like Brentford were building. Sanchez atones for his sloppy showing midweek with a stunning one-on-one save from Schade, but it very much felt like it was building towards an all too familiar, sickening Brentford equaliser. We've not fared well in this fixture in recent years, and it felt like we were heading for more of the same. Thankfully, however, Kelleher, who's very often denied Chelsea over the years, I think back to some of those Liverpool Cup ties, actually took a bit of a leaf out of Sanchez's showing midweek and gifted us a penalty, the chance to take a 2-goal cushion, which Cole Palmer emphatically converted, as Cole Palmer does. And this 2-0 cushion was just about enough to take us home.
Yeah, I mean, 3 points, yes, but I'm not sure how sustainable that showing was. It's far too casual, once again, for me. There's no energy, no press. Felt like a Maresca performance. There's no shake-up to the lineup. And it, to be honest, that set the tone for me. Another continuation in the one-man midfield. I mean, look at the new manager bounce from Carrick's introduction in the Manchester derby. It's like a reset button with players fighting for their spot once again.
I totally agree with that point regarding no press. I think most top sides, most competent sides even, either press high tenaciously as Arsenal did midweek, or drop off and at the very least are compact in their defence. We did under Maresca / continue to do neither. One difference I will call out, an element of Rosinia imprint, was a tactical shift to a back five late in the game. So I think Rosinia was responding to that growing Brentford threat, and particularly the introduction of Dango Ouattara. So fair play to him in bringing on Hato, having Cucurella and Hato kind of doubling up. That's definitely something that we seldom saw under Enzo Maresca's tenure. We did, however, as you mentioned, continue with that one-man midfield. Despite Enzo being top midweek or best in blue at the very least, the returning Caicedo was once again left to his own devices with Enzo and Palmer deployed too high for me. We saw 90 minutes for Cole Palmer today. How did you see his performance, Will?
As emphatic as that penalty was, sort of papered over the cracks for me. He looks off the pace, maybe lacking match fitness. But for me, the most important thing is he's lost his confidence. His usual style, the unorthodox style where he tries those flicks around the corner, he does those incredible touches. He was trying things today and they were not coming off. To be honest with you, I thought he actually should have been hooked, not Garnacho. I thought Garnacho had a good half. Well, apart from that miss. One thing I will also say is the groin injury. I've had a similar thing. I know, obviously not to stay same standard as Cole, but you do lose that sharpness, that explosivity.
I totally agree. I think on the big screen at the end of the game, I've seen footage online already. You see Palmer puffing his cheeks, clearly not content despite the goal and the win today. Felt that 10-15 minute spell against Fulham, there were glimpses of the Cole Palmer of old, but he's clearly just not either got that level of fitness, but as you say, belief in his body, confidence that he can attack and be explosive as old.
One thing I do want to shout out today is an unlikely hero, Tosin Adarabioyo. Stifled Brentford's long ball and throw-in threat. I mean, the number of headers he was clearing away, particularly the key blocks against Igor Thiago. His redemption for that error and the return fixture, and it was a shame to see him go off.
You're not wrong. Credit where credit's due. I think a fair few fans in the boozer beforehand were pretty miffed at his selection. But as you say, countless crucial defensive interventions and marginally better build-up on the ball playing out from the back. I mean, it could not have been any worse than what we saw midweek against Arsenal, but definite improvement there. You mentioned the long ball threat, but particularly the set piece threat, those coyote long throw-ins, and just generally the stature of that Brentford line up, he very much dealt with well. Just a final point, in terms of set pieces, we've seen Arsenal, set piece FC, the benchmark, scoring yet again at the bridge. Brentford with their long throws, the importance they place on set pieces.
Totally.
I thought it was absolutely unacceptable. A couple of those corners from Chelsea that ended up back on the halfway line. It's one thing taking it short, but if you're going to be short, it needs to be really incisive, aggressive, with a new angle created and a clear plan to threaten the goal mouth. I just think it sums us up as a side, just far too casual and ultimately profligate in a scenario that best in class, top of the league at the minute, Arsenal, see as a real goal opportunity. Stop pissing about and put that ball on a sixpence. And
especially if you're playing with Tosin, why would you not put the ball in the box? We've got the tallest man on the pitch to be there for those moments.
Absolutely. And people will say, well, potentially we don't have the set piece quality. It should be basics, fundamentals as a top level footballer. And if they can't do it, practice makes perfect. Keep plugging away on that training pitch, on the pitch come match day, and put that ball on the money with a view to attacking that goal mouth. Simply has to change. Bernardo Cueva, I'm looking at you. Liam Rosenior has come in for some ridicule online this week. Labelled a PE teacher, likened to David Brent with the rather cringe coining of ageing man from the word manage. Ironically though, that is exactly what this young squad need, and fast. It's early days, but how would you evaluate his first week or so at the club, Will?
Well, it's an interesting one. I'd probably give him a 6.5 out of 10. We've had some decent results on paper. that one loss coming against Arsenal, who are the form team of Europe right now. And I've been impressed with him in interview for the most part, even though I feel he's straining a little bit too much to be charismatic at times. But I do want to reiterate one point, which is that energy levels in the press, closing down with intensity, will be key for us. We saw that bounce straight away from Carrick's United on Saturday against City, and I want to see that at Chelsea. Maybe it's an element of the flu tax, but it needs to pick up for me.
Straight in at the deep end, I think he's the first manager to play his first 4 competitive games in 4 separate competitions. Very much a Chelsea thing. I do agree that he's been refreshing in interview, if erring on oversharing at times. I think slightly Amorim-esque. And I do feel the chopping and changing, particularly across the back line mid-game, is also further shades of the ex-United manager. But let's give him the benefit of doubt. He is having to learn about his players, and very fast. And I do think, unlike Carrick, who's probably been watching United on the box week in, week out, very much forming his opinions of who should be playing, who's strong, who's useless, Rosenior has been a full-time manager at Strasbourg, so very much preoccupied elsewhere. There's most definitely been an element of meddling too. I think going forward, I want to see all rumours of interference and meddling dispelled. I think it's critical that Rosenior pins his colours to the mast, puts his hat on a few players, and allows for those crucial partnerships in defence to develop. And for attackers, continuity is equally key. I'd love to see a run of games for Esteval, who I thought was phenomenal against Arsenal, up against Jurrien Timber, undoubtedly one of the best about, and he seriously gave him a game. But I'd love to see Rosenior pick his number 9, so whether that's João Pedro or Liam Delap, and stick with them for a run of games.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. As a newfound number 9 myself, a Sunday League number 9, I may add. But the run of games and the backing of the manager and teammates is key. Goals breed confidence. It's a greater chance of tap-ins and greater chance of the ball just ricocheting into the net. Talking of confidence, I think there needs to be an adjustment of playing out from the back. Bobby Sanchez has been more than alright of late, and I really don't want him to drop to previous levels. One tactical decision I did like from Rosenior was his introduction of Tosin in the lineup against Brentford. Although I don't think he's the answer to all of our problems in that centre-back role, I do think, having watched that Arsenal game, you can't have Chalobah and Fofana playing in this style, playing out from the back. Neither of them are good enough at progressive passes, whereas I do think Tosin adds that element, and so does Badiashile, but they've both got their own problems.
I think you're spot on, Sanchez. I've been quietly quite chuffed of late as a long-time Sanchez apologist. I have to add the context of having endured Kepa for far too long. And I do fully agree that requiring him to play out to that extent is definitely has the potential of eroding his confidence. I think we saw that in full flow against Arsenal with their vicious press, and to a lesser extent against Brentford, but there were still errors there. It's an interesting point you raised, Tosin. I agree. I did think he was a positive from that game against Brentford before typically going off with a hamstring injury, as every promising performance seems to end. But we're well aware of his limitations. I think there's been a portfolio of mistakes from him, particularly up against pace in behind. He's vulnerable and definitely not the answer. And I think you're seeing there why this club the sporting directors do appear to be in for a centre half, but in classic Blue Co win Stanley fashion, it looks like they're shopping in the under-20s market once again, rather than looking for, even if not Prem proven, a modicum of experience and know-how that this side badly needs. One thing I do want to call out in terms of positives of Resenya's imprint so far, and something that I definitely want to see stay, are the tactical substitutions. So I think we mentioned his recognition of that building Brentford threat and ultimately shifting to a back five to close out, I believe, Dango Ouattara particularly, but to close out that game and get a crucial 3 points against the Bees. I think this show of pragmatism is a very welcome change from Maresca's rigidity in shape, in lineups, but also thinking. It felt like he was limited to like-for-like substitutions, adamant in his kind of one way of playing, and ultimately I just don't think that's sustainable in the modern era / any era to consistently challenge at the very top. We've now got a favourable run of fixtures upcoming, particularly in the league, and this is a real chance for Resenya to silence the haters and kick on up the Chels.
Time now for the opposition view. Up next for the Blues is Crystal Palace away. It's a Sunday 2 p.m. kickoff at Selhurst Park. And joining us for this section is a very special guest, a mate from the peaks of Patagonia just under a year ago now, and big Eagles fan, Tom Anderson. Welcome.
Thank you, George. Yeah, we met that day in Patagonia. I was traveling with my wife, and she never let me talk about football really. So when we bumped into each other on that hike, I quickly just booted her off and ignored her, and we just nattered away for the afternoon. So it was great when you reached out, and able to pick up where we left off.
Guilty. So I think the last time we did speak about football, the two of us were living it up at Rio Carnival. Life was good. Palace were on their way to Wembley and ultimately a historic FA Cup win over Man City. They followed that up with a seriously impressive win against Premier League champions Liverpool in the Community Shield. But now, winless in 10, sort of a civil war emerging. I imagine the feel-good spirit has dampened a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. It's 2026 has not got off to the right start. 2025 obviously was just insane, and I managed to get back in traveling the week before the FA Cup semi-final, and then was there for the final as well. And yeah, of course, memories for a lifetime. But yeah, 2026, as you said, winless in 10. We lost to Macclesfield, who are over 100 places below us. Captain's gone. Manager don't fancy it, and he said he's leaving us at the end of the season. It's been a pretty bleak start, so not very much looking forward to Sunday.
I think from an outsider looking in, I very much side with Glasner in terms of this kind of Palace civil war brewing. I think he's mentioned being abandoned, and as I see it, he did develop a top side. I mean, even I guess I call it the Elise era. You guys were the form team of the league. Lost Elise, but regrouped and ultimately fully deserved that FA Cup win. Outplayed City, I'd say outplayed Liverpool, and then come that opening game of the season against Chelsea, club champions of the world ourselves. I think it's fair to say you outplayed us then. So while maybe abandoned is a little bit harsh, is it fair to say he's just not been backed?
Yeah, I think there's definitely obviously some truth in that. Like, we didn't spend a huge amount of money. We did get a few players in, and the squad is relatively similar to what it was last year, minus Eze, which obviously is a huge player. But I'd also like to say that I think probably Glasner's got a bit too much credit in the bank and a bit too much respect from other fans. Like, he has done a huge amount. But we had, as I said, the best year in our 120-year history. But at the same time, a lot of it is down to him, I think, recently. He's got to take some more responsibility for where we're at. A lot of our goals that we've conceded in this run of games recently have been set pieces. We conceded two long throw-ins at Leeds. We conceded a corner in a 1-0 loss at Tottenham, and then the first goal against Macclesfield again was a set piece. That's not fatigue, that's not squad, that is coaching. So a huge amount of the goals we've got in and a lot of the points we're dropping, you can argue is fatigue, but it's also, that getting the set pieces right. I think that's on the manager.
We've complained in an earlier section of this pod about Chelsea wasting set piece opportunities and actually playing short and ultimately playing back to the halfway line. So you may be in luck there. I do think there's a serious, maybe not emerging theme, but definitely a strong theme at the minute of self-preservation of managers. We definitely complained about Maresca ourselves, very much putting self first over side, often playing politics, trying to prove a point. So it is interesting because I do believe probably the outsider, the neutral, does see Glasner's stock as very high and does see a stretched squad, but always interesting to get that tactical analysis.
Yeah, and this happened for Glasner in Wolfsburg and Frankfurt. This exact same situation where he had the success, and then complained consistently about the quality of the squad, and then left in a tantrum. So, this isn't the first time this has happened, and he's definitely earned the right to go on to a much bigger job than, in fairness, what Crystal Palace is. So it'd be interesting to see if that ends in tears as well.
Interesting. I think it's, let's say, the manner of going about it. I've seen Frank Lampard actually linked today.
Yeah, I know. He's 10-1 today.
Obviously doing a great job with Coventry. How would you receive that appointment?
Probably not my number one choice, if I'm being honest. He doesn't have the best track record in the Prem, as I'm sure you're more aware of than most. But maybe he has matured, maybe he has learned. But I feel like when managers do hop mid-season from a good side, it doesn't often go well. So you'd want that to be a bit more measured if he is going to be the solution, and let him see out a full season first.
It's a very fair take. So shifting focus fully to Chelsea, say we consistently engrossed in our own club, have many a complaint, obviously empathising that Palace are potentially in deeper depths at the minute. But what's your take on the circus that is Chelsea FC in 2026?
Yeah, I think the thing with that, like with Chelsea, and like obviously you always go straight to the transfers and everything that's been going on. The transfers are just always seem to be like squad players. You don't seem to sign players that actually like improve your first team. It just feels like you sell a player and you buy someone similar for probably a bit more money, or you just get you don't want to improve that first team who's going to be that star signing. It's, can we buy four average blokes for a lot more money and then hope that one of them is going to come off. So I think that's probably the main thing that I see, but under Maresca, it did slowly start to come together, and like you do get that rhythm. You are, I don't know where you are on the table now, but around fourth, I think it is. So it was looking promising, and probably what you would want to be expecting from last season. But it does feel like that falling out in the club again. Big egos throwing toys out of the pram and stuff, and then that therefore has now led to him leaving, and a new unproven manager on one of the longest contracts that they probably get on the first time in the Premier League.
Not wrong. I mean, you won't like to hear this, but I think a lot of Chelsea fans were actually looking at your Mark Guehi's, even Mateta, I've seen linked away today. That level of Prem proven signing, just a couple of those additions, feels like would be pivotal and game changing in terms of our young side actually becoming a serious team and competing.
Yeah. I mean, don't forget that Gay, he used to play for Chelsea. And when you sold him, you signed a couple of other centre backs that year. I think they're probably not there anymore, or there are others that are on the fringes. So I think it's again, it comes back to bite you when you think about some of those transfer decisions you've made.
Definitely, combination of grass always being greener, but also I think the lure of pure profit. So look into the game on Sunday, Palace, of course, will be without Gehi. I presume Mateta will play, but how do we see this game playing out, I guess, in the context of this terrible run for Palace, but up against the Chelsea side that have been shaky themselves?
I think on Sunday we could have Sarr and Munoz back. That would be massive for us to have that. That's our full right side kind of reinstated. Munoz offers so much, arguably the best right back in the Premier League. I know you maybe disagree with Reece James, but he is fully up there, and I think he will transform the team if he's fit. I would be surprised if he does play, but if we can get both of those in and we're not overwhelmed in the midfield, because Wharton and Hughes can often get pulled apart and dragged all over the place, there might be a chance. But that is me being optimistic. Realistically, you've got a lot of pace. You're going to have a lot of movement. It's a very fluid setup. That movement is going to confuse a back three that doesn't have his captain, and it's one of its most important players. So the chances are slim, but you've always got to believe.
It's interesting. Again, probably every fan can relate, but I feel like the opposition permanently have players coming back from injury, key players for our fixture, and we've consistently complained that said key players are often missing for Arsenal's clashes. But yeah, Munoz, top, as you say, definitely held a place in my fantasy football team many a week. I think that opening game of the season, seriously well drilled outfit, very solid side. We really struggled to break it down and create anything. But with Gehi namely missing, you mentioned Hughes partnering Wharton, the very impressive Wharton, in midfield, but potentially a little bit more vulnerable there. Going to be challenging Chelsea to take advantage. I'm going to call a 3-1 Chelsea win. Let's go, Ismaila Sarr. I know he often scores against Liverpool, but he's definitely been threatening against us over the years as well. Can I get a prediction from you?
Yeah, I've got to go 2-1 Palace. It has to be done. I wouldn't be, being true to myself if I went the other way. So I'm going to go 2-1 Palace, and I'm going to go a Mateta brace, and I'm going to go for a Caicedo worldie because that's where I think we'll get to.
Love it. No secret that our centre-back pairings have not only been all over the place, but seems to change up every week. So I think Mateta does represent, particularly when on form, one of the true top number 9 tests in the league. So I think you could be on there with him on the score sheet. Enjoy the game, mate. And
thank you very much. Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there in the Lower Holmesdale on Sunday. So looking forward to it.
I'll be in touch, mate, and potentially catch a beer afterwards. Cheers again, mate.
Have a great one.
Thanks to everyone for tuning in once again this week. The waves will continue to roll in as the fixtures continue to come thick and fast. Catch you all again here this time next week, but be sure to check out our TikTok for even more content in the interim.